The alarm screamed through Firebase Alpha as explosions rocked the desert compound. Captain Marcus Steele burst into the operations center, where his elite team was scrambling to respond to the chaos erupting around them. "Report!" Steele barked, his voice cutting through the din of sirens and shouting personnel. Lieutenant Sarah Cross, their tech specialist, frantically worked her console. "We're under coordinated attack from 3 directions, sir. Enemy forces have somehow neutralized our perimeter defenses and are advancing on our position." Sergeant Jake Hunter shouldered his state-of-the-art assault rifle, its digital display flickering with targeting data. "How did they get past our early warning systems? These are supposed to be impenetrable." Before Steele could answer, a figure stepped out of the shadows near the back of the room. She was unremarkable at first glance. Medium height, dark hair pulled back simply, carrying what looked like an antique sniper rifle from decades past. Her uniform bore no identifying marks except for a single name tape: Phoenix. "Your systems were compromised 12 hours ago," she said quietly, her voice somehow carrying clearly, despite the chaos. "They've been feeding false data to your sensors while positioning for this attack." Steele spun around, noticing her for the first time. "Who the hell are you? How did you get into my operations center?" Phoenix set her rifle case down with deliberate precision. "Staff Sergeant Phoenix. I was assigned to your unit this morning." She produced orders from her pocket. "Priority Alpha classification." Hunter laughed harshly, adrenaline making him reckless. "Great. They send us museum pieces when we're under attack. That rifle probably saw action in the Gulf War." Cross looked up from her console, panic evident in her voice. "Sir, all our defensive systems are down." "They're jamming everything. Communications, targeting computers, even our basic electronics." "That's impossible," Steele said. But even as he spoke, his own tactical display flickered and died. "These systems are hardened against electronic warfare." Phoenix began assembling her rifle with fluid, practiced movements, not against someone who helped design them. "What are you talking about?" Steele demanded. "Dr. Elena Kozlov," Phoenix replied, chambering a round with mechanical precision. "Former Soviet weapons designer who supposedly defected 15 years ago. She's been playing both sides ever since, selling vulnerabilities to the highest bidder." The building shook as another explosion hit closer. Through the reinforced windows, they could see muzzle flashes advancing across the compound's outer perimeter. "We need to evacuate!" Cross shouted, grabbing essential data drives. "The main bunker can." "The bunker's been compromised," Phoenix interrupted. "They know exactly where it is and how to breach it. We're staying here." Steele's face reddened with anger and confusion. "I don't know who you think you are, but I'm in command of this operation. We follow established protocols." Phoenix's eyes met his, and something in her gaze made him take an involuntary step back. Protocols that were written by someone who's now selling your lives to enemy forces. She moved to the window, studying the advancing attackers through her rifle scope. 43 hostiles, advancing in a perfect pincer movement. They know your defensive positions, your response protocols, your escape routes. Hunter shook his head in disbelief. "You can't possibly count them all from here. It's dark. They're using suppressive fire." 43? Phoenix repeated with quiet certainty. "In approximately 90 seconds, they'll breach the outer wall. 30 seconds after that, they'll have clear shots into this room." Steele looked at his team's faces, seeing his own confusion and growing fear reflected there. Their high-tech equipment was failing them when they needed it most, and this mysterious operative seemed to know things that should have been impossible. "If you know so much," Cross challenged, "what do you suggest we do?" Phoenix moved away from the window, positioning herself at a different angle. "You're going to learn what happens when technology fails and training takes over." She pulled something from her pocket, a small device that looked nothing like their standard military equipment. "This is a white noise generator. When I activate it, their communications will be disrupted just like ours have been." "That won't level the playing field," Steele objected. "They still outnumber us 10-1. "Numbers don't matter when your enemy can't coordinate," Phoenix replied. "And when they can't see what's coming." The lights suddenly cut out, plunging them into darkness. Emergency lighting kicked in a moment later, casting everything in an eerie red glow. "They've cut our power," Hunter said, his voice tight with anxiety. "No," Phoenix corrected. "I did." In the red-tinged darkness, she seemed to move differently, more fluid, more certain. "Your thermal imaging systems work both ways. If you can see them, they can see you. But some of us learn to operate without electronic assistance." Steele was beginning to realize this was no ordinary support assignment. "Who are you really?" Phoenix checked her rifle one final time. "Someone who learned that the most dangerous enemies are the ones who know exactly how you think, exactly how you'll react, and exactly what you'll depend on. The sound of boots pounding up the external stairs reached them. Cross gripped her sidearm with white knuckles. They're almost here. Phoenix moved to the door, pressing her back against the wall beside it. When they breach, they'll expect you to be where your protocols say you should be. Don't be there. What kind of training is this? Hunter whispered. The kind that keeps you alive when everything else fails, Phoenix replied. The door exploded inward in a shower of sparks and debris. Dark figures poured through the opening, their movements precise and coordinated, clearly following a predetermined plan. What happened next would be burned into the team's memory forever. Phoenix moved through the chaos like a force of nature, engaging targets with her antique rifle, while the others scrambled for cover. Each shot was deliberate, calculated, and devastatingly effective. But it wasn't just her marksmanship that stunned them. It was her complete situational awareness, her ability to anticipate enemy movements, her seamless adaptation to rapidly changing circumstances. In less than 3 minutes, the immediate threat was neutralized. As emergency lighting flickered back to full power, Steele and his team stared in amazement at what Phoenix had accomplished. But she was already moving, already planning the next phase. That was just the advanced team, she said, reloading with mechanical efficiency. The main force is still out there, and they're going to be very unhappy about this development. Cross looked at her tactical display, which was slowly coming back online. I'm reading movement all around our position, at least 30 more contacts. 37. Phoenix corrected without looking. And they're not just surrounding us randomly. They're positioning for a specific assault pattern, one that would work perfectly against a team following standard defensive protocols. Steele felt a chill of recognition. You're describing Protocol 7. That's classified at the highest levels. Phoenix's expression didn't change. Dr. Kozlov had access to all the protocols when she defected. She's been selling that information along with the technical vulnerabilities. Hunter was staring at his weapon, its targeting system still flickering unreliably. So what do? We're outnumbered, outgunned, and our equipment is compromised. We give them what they expect, Phoenix said, and then we show them what they didn't prepare for. Over the next 20 minutes, Phoenix guided them through a series of moves that seemed to defy everything they'd been taught. Instead of holding defensive positions, they moved constantly. Instead of relying on their compromised technology, they used basic fieldcraft and intuition. Instead of following protocols, they adapted to each moment as it came. But it was when Phoenix led them outside into the open compound that Steele truly understood what he was witnessing. Moving across terrain that should have been a killing field, Phoenix seemed to predict every enemy position, every line of fire, every tactical decision before it happened. She guided them through the chaos with the confidence of someone who had done this countless times before. How is she doing this? Cross whispered, as they took cover behind a damaged vehicle. Experience, Steele replied, but he was beginning to suspect there was more to it than that. As they reached what should have been a safe rally point, Phoenix suddenly held up her hand, stopping them all in their tracks. What is it? Hunter asked. Phoenix was studying something in the distance, a figure barely visible on a ridgeline nearly a mile away. Overwatch, she said quietly. Someone's been directing this entire operation from that position. She raised her rifle, adjusting the scope with movements so practiced they seemed automatic. You can't make that shot, Steele protested. Not at that distance, in these conditions, without targeting assistance. The rifle cracked once. A moment later, they heard the distant sound of something falling. The operations control center just went dark, Phoenix said simply. Their coordination will start breaking down in approximately 30 seconds. As if on cue, the coordinated enemy fire around the compound began to falter, becoming sporadic and confused. But it was what Phoenix did next that revealed the true scope of what they were dealing with. From her pocket, she pulled out a different set of orders, ones that Steele hadn't seen before. The truth is, I wasn't assigned to your unit for support, she said. I was sent to test something. Test what? Steele demanded. Whether the Shadow Protocol is still viable in modern warfare. Cross looked up sharply. Shadow Protocol? That's just a legend. A story about operatives who can function without technology, without support, without recognition. Phoenix finished. 7 operators trained to do what others can't when systems fail and protocols break down. She showed them the orders, and Steele's blood ran cold as he read them. This wasn't a defensive mission. This wasn't even about protecting Firebase Alpha. This entire attack was engineered, he realized. You knew it was coming. Dr. Kozlov has been planning this for months, Phoenix confirmed. She needed to test her new electronic warfare systems against a fully equipped modern military unit. Your base was chosen specifically because it represents the pinnacle of technological integration. Hunter's voice was tight with anger. You used us as bait. I used a controlled scenario to neutralize a threat that has killed dozens of soldiers over the past year. Phoenix corrected. Every attack that succeeded against coalition forces in the past 6 months used intelligence and vulnerabilities that Kozlov provided. And now? Phoenix looked toward the ridgeline where she had taken her impossible shot. Now she's learned that some capabilities can't be bought, sold, or compromised. As if to punctuate her words, the remaining enemy forces began withdrawing, their coordinated assault falling apart without centralized control. The Shadow Protocol, Steele said, understanding beginning to dawn. You're one of them. Phoenix neither confirmed nor denied it. Instead, she began disassembling her rifle with the same mechanical precision with which she had used it. Your team performed well, she said as she worked. Better than expected. With the right training, they could learn to operate independently of their systems. Is that what happens now? Cross asked. You disappear back into whatever black project created you? Phoenix closed her rifle case and shouldered it. There are other threats, other tests, other places where technology isn't enough. She walked a few steps away, then paused, and looked back at them. The mark of a true professional, she said quietly, isn't the ability to succeed when everything goes according to plan. It's the ability to succeed when everything falls apart. As dawn broke over the desert compound, Phoenix vanished as quietly as she had appeared. The only evidence she had ever been there was the devastating effectiveness with which she had neutralized a threat none of them had seen coming. Later, when Steele filed his after-action report, he found that most of the relevant files were classified beyond his clearance level. The official record would show that Firebase Alpha had successfully repelled an enemy attack through superior tactics and training. There would be no mention of Staff Sergeant Phoenix. No mention of the Shadow Protocol. No mention of the impossible shot that had ended the battle in a single moment. But late at night, when Steele looked out at the desert horizon, he sometimes wondered how many other threats were being neutralized by people whose names would never appear in any report, whose faces would never be recognized, whose capabilities existed in the shadowy space between legend and reality. And somewhere in that desert, Phoenix was already moving toward her next assignment, carrying skills that couldn't be programmed, instincts that couldn't be replicated, and a dedication to mission success that needed no recognition to drive it forward. The Shadow Protocol remained operational, and the enemy would never see it coming.